You may start when you're ready, Camilla.
I'm sorry? All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regular board meeting of Shields Township for September 2025. I call the meeting to order at 5:04. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Sure. Trustee Swarthout. Trustee Prager.
Here.
Supervisor Russo.
Here.
Trustee Oliver Sabella.
Here.
Trustee Parnell. Here.
Okay. And I ask that you all rise to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As state law requires an independent audit of the township's financial statements to be performed each year. The draft of the FY 2025 audit report was provided to the trustees last month to review. This evening, Joe Troyer from GWA and Associates PC is here to formally present the report to the board. So Joe, thank you for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Well, hello, everyone, trustees and all in the audience. I'll kind of go through the process that we do in an audit, and then I kind of just flip through a handful of things that I looked at today in the audit that might be of interest or pointed out to you as we kind of go through it. I guess in order to start out, what we do in an audit, we're doing a financial statement audit. So this is not like a forensic audit, or this is not a state audit by the state itself. We're independent auditors that you can hire anyone you want that's certified to do this kind of thing to come in, and what we do is we get the information from the township. They send us all of your financial statements and records for the year. We go through, and once we receive this information, we'll go through and we will make sure that everything on the balance sheet is reconciled, make sure everything matches to what, we make sure the bank's reconciled, we make sure that any other assets, liabilities that back up for that gives us a good sense that these numbers are accurate. Once we do that, we also go through and we can go to a third party, which is the state accounting. We verify most of the revenues that come in, because that's a third party verification that we can reach out and we do that ourselves. And then we go through and we test a lot of the expenses, just to make sure that we will look at some random expenses. We'll pull stuff to make sure that the board has approved things, that people have signed things, that they go to account numbers that look reasonable, that kind of thing. So we do look at some of the processes that you go through, as well as the numbers themselves. There's information in here also presented from IMRF about the pension. So we go to multiple sources to get third-party information about what is supposed to be coming in here, and then we verify it to what has been recorded on the books. So that's kind of the process we go through. So and I know you guys have had the report for a little while, but one of those things that is usually of interest, people ask, where do I know if it's a clean opinion or a clear opinion? On the very first page, it says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the government. That is our opinion on this set of financial statements in this report. It's just saying that as far as we can tell, we've checked all these things, we've done all these procedures, and in a material way, these are accurate numbers. So we've not missed anything that, as far as we know, that is of a large nature that, you know, is in here. These are accurate as far as we can tell. And it's either called an unmodified opinion or clean or clear opinion. People use different verbiage for it, but that's what it is, where it is, and you've got a clean opinion. Back on page 7, this is the first section after the opinion is the management discussion and analysis. It's kind of the area where, as management of the township, kind of allowed to give the readers a sense of what happened in a summary form. And you can add a little extra material in here that's just saying, you know, this is what's happened over the year, and this is why it happened. And kind of just summarizes and gives your own kind of view of our financial statements presented behind it. Page 7 though gives a year to year, and you can kind of see that operating grants, that's MFT money. Your property taxes went up as far as collections into the township went up just a little bit. Replacement taxes for you and everyone else in the state got cut to about half. Interest, because of the interest rates that we're in now, have gone up. And then your expenses, you know, up and down in the areas of different functions within the township, but all very similar to the prior years. There's no big jumps, big spikes, anything like that. So it's a very, what I would call boring year, as far as there's nothing like huge capital projects or expenses that really spiked for any particular reason. So it's a good just operating year following 2024. I'm going to skip around just a little bit here. Page 30. Hold on, we'll go to page 13 and 14. Those are pages, they're called government-wide statements. They present the financials in a little bit different fashion. They add in all the fixed assets, capital assets that you've bought, purchased over the years, as well as any debt that the township had. One thing that did happen recently is the addition of a new GASB, which because we're in a building that's not ours, we lease this building. GASB's now said that you have to add that as an asset because you control what happens in this building, as well as a liability. So it goes on in one place and comes right back off in the next. So that's one change that you might see if you looked at last year's report. 13 and 14 are that way. 15 and 16, and everything behind here. These are financials that should look a little bit more familiar as far as if you're looking at financials throughout the year, that management gives you your monthly reports or things like that. The fund statements are ones that kind of match up with what you've already seen as far as a cash basis. Your cash basis district, which means when money comes in is when you record it, when money goes out is when you record that. Accrual basis takes into effect some different look at revenues and expenses. So the cash basis is a little bit easier to understand for most people, and so that makes this a little easier to kind of go through and see. But that's where your statements are on just regular fund cash basis. Page 16, at the bottom of the page, you can see the net change in fund balance. For the town fund was up $357 for the year, which puts your fund balance at 1.5. If you look at 1.5 versus your expenditures, you have about 2 years worth of operating income. So if there's projects out there that need to happen, you have enough money on hand to do that kind of thing. If something were to happen to one of your revenue streams, you have money to operate. You're not in a cash flow crunch. Road and Bridge, they're sitting on, about 4 months worth of fund balance. A lot of the stuff that happened in Road and Bridge last year did get capitalized. A new truck was purchased and some roads were done. So in these statements, those show as expenditures, whereas the government-wide statements, they show as assets. So that's kind of the difference between these two sets of statements. And so they do have a little bit of money sitting in their fund balance to operate as money comes in, because we only get tax revenue a couple times a year for the most part. So there's some money sitting there to operate until revenue can come in. Back on page 30, this is just a chart of the assets for the year, the capital assets that you've accumulated throughout the life of the township, as well as the current year purchases and things that you maybe got rid of. So we can kind of see in the increases, some road improvements, as well as a pickup truck to replace an old one that we got rid of. The new one shows up in the increases, the old one shows up in the decreases. And then at the end, you're sitting on $2 million worth of capital assets that you're operating off of. Every year we depreciate a certain portion of it. Roads obviously depreciate a lot longer. They last for multiple years, whereas cars, equipment doesn't last that long. So we kind of depreciate those and expense those out over the life, which is maybe 5 to 10 years, versus a road that's like 30. So when you see this, the net assets that or the net capital assets you're sitting on is a couple $1 million worth of stuff. And then the last thing that I kind of wanted to point out, I got a handful of questions about, is your IMRF. So on page 38, this is a chart of the last 10 years of IMRF data. And I'm not gonna go through all the numbers. We don't actually do the IMRF data. IMRF sends that out to a company in Michigan that crunches all the numbers. All the numbers are done per entity, so every entity within the state that has IMRF gets their own specific numbers. They're in reference to their own specific employees. And so when we get this back from IMRF, that's what's included here. In the 2024 column, that's the newest year because they end on December 31st of the prior year. They have to have time to get all the numbers straightened out, and then we get to report in 2025. So at the very bottom of the 2024 column, if you go up to the percent of planned financial net position as a percent of total pension liability, it says 105.11. That is telling you that you are more than 100% funded in IMRF right now. So if the township dissolved and all your employees, everybody was let go and there's no more township here, you are fully funded. Everyone that was here would have, at that point, enough in IMRF to pay them out for the rest of their, paid out of IMRF, essentially. The goal is, with IMRF, 100% funding by 2040. A lot of the pensions aim for 90% by 2040, 2045 in this state. And so you're well over that. So you're more than 100% funded at this point. It doesn't mean you won't continue to get an IMRF bill, because you still have, people that are gonna eventually be employed as new employees, people that are eventually gonna retire. And so this number just keeps adjusting every year, depending on what the market does, what the healthcare trends do, that kind of thing. So it's a moving target, but you've been at 100+% for the last 5 years. So that to me says, well, you don't have to really worry about a huge spike in your IMRF rate. where they're gonna come back and all of a sudden charge you like a 15 or 20% rate. And so it makes it easier to budget, easier to kind of get off your mind as a worry that some other districts kind of do have to worry about. So, very good news, very positive news. So with that being said, I kind of jumped around a little bit, but kind of went through the things that I thought were of interest if I was sitting in your shoes. And if you have any questions, I can try to answer those here. And if not, you know, if you come up with questions later, the supervisor and deputy clerk both, you know, have my email and my phone, so they can send me questions that way. But if you do have any questions, I can try to answer at this moment.
What, from your perspective, is the biggest concern we have 5 to 10 years down the road that we ought to be planning for now and may not have thought of?
I don't really see anything there. It's kind of a loaded question, because I'm not here every day.
And you don't know what you don't know, but.
Right, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't see everything, coming down the road. I don't see anything, I don't really see anything Gatsby-wide that they're putting in the, you know, in the pipe now, that's gonna be a huge effect. You know, I think, as far as maintaining the assets that you have, in your road district, you could be at a little bit higher fund balance, if you have some assets that you're, concerned about. And I don't know this, so like if there's streets that you have that are, starting to get bad, and you know you're gonna have a huge expense there, that would be the only thing that I would be like, you could have a little more sitting in the bank. But you can also move money. You have enough sitting on the town side that you could take some out of the town, transfer it over. You just can't go the other way. So.
We're working on that anyway. We're trying to build up the balance. We realize it's a little below what we'd like, at least a half a year of balance.
Right.
And that's part of the reason that we didn't spend on roads this year. So I think we'll see it, the budget's coming up, you know, early next year. But I think then, as long as we have a good levy, we should be able to increase it more than 4 months.
Sure.
And that's the goal. We're aware that we'd like it at 6
Yeah.
or more, and we know it's not at this point. It wasn't 2 years ago, I believe.
Yeah.
But we did spend quite a bit on roads. We had a couple major road improvements.
Right.
24.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's what you're supposed to do. You get the money to spend on the people, and that's what you've done, and that's what you're supposed to do. It's just projecting forward. If there's things that you know are gonna need it, then you gotta kind of plan for it. And like I said, you have money in the town fund, it's an easy transfer back and forth, so it's not the end of the world, it's not something that, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. So I don't really see anything, especially out of this, that would really concern me.
Stepping out of your shoes just a little bit, and knowing that you do this for a lot of different townships, are there any best practices that they have that we don't have that you think would make a difference?
Not really. It's hard to, even though I do a lot of townships, everyone's unique. I do deal with a lot of small townships, and, you know, the one thing that I always struggle with as an auditor, because we're supposed to look at, you know, what kinds of processes and procedures you go with. There's always like, oh, we're small, we don't have people that always, you know, double checking this and that. You know, we only have one person or two people doing, you know, all the jobs of the financial side, which is all really not good. You know, segregation of duties and things like that. It makes no sense to go hire someone to look over somebody else's shoulder. So that's where we always struggle on the risk and independent side of smaller entities. But I really don't see a whole lot that, you know, that you can markedly make adjustments to.
Thank you for that.
Joe.
Thank you very much.
Because we're independent and they are hired by the board, I would like to thank you guys, the board, for, letting us serve you and do the audit for you. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll share his email and stuff with you guys if you guys have any questions, so. Okay. So no more questions, guys? So hearing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda. And the board will consider taking actions on the report later this evening under new business. Okay, then next is, public comment. This is the portion of the meeting where anyone in the audience who wishes to address the board may do so. We ask that you come forward, state your name, spelling of your last name for the record, and provide your address. We also ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes because the state law limits the board, to considerations of the matters listed on the published agenda. We ask that you please do not take offense if we do not respond to matters, you may, raise in public comment. That being said, Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up for public comment?
Yes, the first person we have is Kathy Blanca.
I'm sorry, I didn't make you a copy. I didn't know if you were gonna be doing.
Share with the supervisor.
I'm Kathy Blanca, you know how to spell my name. The township typically approves the tax levy in December of each year. As we approach the end of the year and in preparation of the tax levy, it is important for the new board to understand the road fund distribution and the history of deception with the road funding over the past 3 years. As we should all be aware, Shields Township includes unincorporated Lake Bluff areas known as Knollwood, Arden Shore North, and Arden Shore South, and portions of surrounding municipalities, including North Chicago, south of 18th Street, Lake Forest, north of Valencia and Route 60, and incorporated Lake Bluff. The Township Road Fund extension is distributed to all these areas and not just to the incorporated areas which this board oversees. The past supervisor never educated the Board of Trustees on the distribution of road funds. While telling the board the road fund levy would be the maximum increase allowed by law, the supervisor provided a levy number for approval vote, which was initially $167,000 lower than the expected amount in December of 2022. For the next 2 years, the discussion included the maximum increase in road fund, but the levy number provided was the same value as voted on in December of 2022. This unethical maneuver effectively took $600,000 in road funds away from the township roads, which amounts to $318,000 for the unincorporated areas, $174,000 for Lake Forest, $90,000 for Lake Bluff, and $18,000 for North Chicago. The money was moved to the corporate fund. A total of $176,000 was used to purchase new road vehicles for use by the unincorporated area only. This board can right this unethical wrong when the levy is approved this December for the tax year 2025 or fiscal year 27. Promises were made by members of this board to assure township roads are safe. Adjusting the levy to allow the road fund money previously withheld, along with the maximum allowable increase, will allow Shields Township as a whole to better maintain their roads and not just the unincorporated area. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to educate you further on the details of this. I've attached the P-tab, which is by the county. It gives you the levy and the extension data, and I put a table in the back to help you understand it more thoroughly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, David Heat, height. Sorry. How is it?
I'm not telling.
Okay, we're gonna guess.
David Hyatt, H-I-E-T-T,
Got it.
692 West Washington Avenue.
Thank you.
I'm mostly concerned that there's some means for the comments that are made to know that there's something being addressed or dealt with or talked about, or AVEX, so that if maybe at the next meeting we know if any of it has changed in
anything, or if it means anything, or do our voices even matter? Because sometimes it just feels like we'll speak, but we never hear any more about what they've raised. That's my primary reason for wanting to speak is how do we get feedback, or is there a way? And if there is, let us know. If there isn't, we should have one. That's really what I would like to say. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, Mike.
Correct.
Correct, thank you.
Yeah, and you got my spelling right there,
I
right?
got it, yeah. Yes.
And I want to follow up on some remarks I made in July. I'm a 40-year resident of Shields Township. And I will email them to you because my printer's not. Supervisor Urso, when you were elected, you made promises for change to the Shields community. I have commended you personally and publicly for the largely civil tone of these monthly meetings. There are disagreements which are to be expected in a democracy, but it is refreshing that all the members of this new board seem very determined to talk things out and respond to their constituents' concerns in a responsible fashion. I hope that you will soon be able to act on your promise of quarterly public information meetings and continued improvement in publicity about Shields Township's activities and services through the website and other means. And I do commend the supervisor for your attendance and presentations at board meetings and other community events. Changes take time, I understand that, so I will continue to monitor the board's efforts to reduce our current 10% spend of Shields tax revenue on attorney's fees. Just a gentle reminder that this is 17 times the average spend in other townships in Lake County. When the township attorney was given an opportunity to present at the June meeting, he mentioned his firm's role in repairing the chaos that left the township functionally unable to operate after the mass resignations during the last term, none of which is the fault of anyone here. He mentioned that records were destroyed, yet there is no record of recommendations that there be any report of this crime to the authorities. No official communications were made about the destruction of records to Lake County or other places. The attorney also stated in June that he was hired to defend and restore compliance to the township. And the board should be aware, I hope you are, that the township has a record retention schedule that only allows destruction of records after approval by the state archivist. Such approval was last granted in September of 2014. That document requires the permanent retention of all road improvement plans, drawings, and specifications. During the chaos, right before the present firm was hired, the township road district improvement plans were destroyed for the period 1961 to 2022. This included records maintained by one staff member themselves for over 20 years. Since the financial audits were also destroyed prior to 2008, we only know that the township spent $2.3 million of taxpayer dollars for road maintenance and capital improvements during that time. We have no records to show what work had been done. At the time, a forensic search to retrieve records was considered too expensive, yet the township attorney firm billed almost $460,000 over the past years to implement reforms. I think the public deserves to have those records recovered. Thank you. Sorry for the overtime.
Thank you.
Sorry for the, for my child.
I usually speak faster.
Does anyone else wanna speak that's not signed up?
No, that's all. All right, hearing and seeing none, I will now close this portion of the meeting. Okay, and now on to the reports. Okay, I'll start with mine. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start by sharing an update on pedestrian safety efforts near our schools. I've been in ongoing communication with the school board to explore additional ideas and solutions to improving safety at our crosswalks, especially in areas with heavy student foot traffic. We are continuing to identify opportunities to make these crossings safer for our children and families. So I'm also pleased to report that with the support of Bob Morgan's office, our state representative, we've made progress on implementing a sign, no turn on red restriction coming out of Target parking lot, where it crosses over the bike path. And this will serve as an important added safety measure to protect pedestrians, particularly the students walking or biking to school. So hopefully that'll be up soon. And then, September 13th, I attended the panel hosted by Alderman Carl Evans alongside Tammy Springs, who represented Supervisor Jones, and we spoke about the services we provide, Waukegan provides, and answered questions from the community. And then I attended the monthly supervisors luncheon, where we had the opportunity to hear from the Veterans Assistance Commission of Lake County. They gave a valuable presentation on the benefits and tax exemptions available to all our local veterans, which is a topic that is very important to our community. I also wanted to highlight that I participated alongside Trustee Trent and Trustee Chris. We were hosted by Waukegan Township Supervisor Mike Jones, who guided us through several key facilities that serve vulnerable populations in our region. We visited the Patricia Jones Center, which provides services and support for seniors. The Staben House, which offers transitional housing for homeless women and children, and the Eddie Washington Center, which was a transitional housing facility for men. These programs are doing incredible work, and it was truly eye-opening to see the services being provided firsthand. Finally, I wanted to mention that Lake County is launching a helpful new program focused on snowplow maintenance and efficiency. As part of this, our township's snowplow trucks will be brought in and professionally calibrated to ensure that they are functioning correctly. And this step will help us avoid unnecessary road damage, reduce salt waste, and ultimately save taxpayer money while keeping our roads safe during the winter months. And then trustees' reports. Does anyone have it?
I guess I could do the road commission one. Unfortunately, I left my phone, but everywhere, all the places that we had spoken about,
Oh, yes.
having the speed bumps, they've been put in, and that we've got nothing but positive response from that, especially over by the apartments on the other side of the tracks and so forth, where those went, especially with Fontana family.
Yeah.
Being on the corner there, we're very concerned about the high-speed traffic on their lot or around their corner.
Yes, we got a lot of praise for, hopefully one day we could get grants for like more sheriffs and stuff, but till then, hopefully it'll slow down.
And it doesn't seem like there's any, because there was a concern of any kind of fallout with the speed bump over by Starbucks, by Walgreens, but that seems to have been okay.
I spoke with Dan, he said he spoke with Chris, and they're gonna keep talking about it to see how they could benefit their business and
not
benefit us.
causing any nothing, because that's about the only one that we have to do any concern. Everything else has been done, Talbot and others have done it.
Yeah, Blodgett, Woodland, and that northern, where it comes into Basil.
So,
Trustee Prager, is there any discussion about adding to the bike paths themselves? And what I'm talking about is we've seen a lot of what it was mini CC motorcycles and a ton of scooters. And there's been quite a few accidents and injuries on the bike path and kids running into, kids on scooters running into kids or, dogs and people. I'm just wondering, and I know that would be quite an expensive endeavor, but it just feels like between the cyclists, the walkers, and now you have these mini motorized machines, and there's not supposed to be motorized machines on the bike paths, but it's so much more dangerous to ask them to go on the roadway that doesn't seem to be a viable option.
No, yeah.
So I think we need to
I
start
think the
thinking.
problem is the bike path is owned by the county, so we'd have to get permission from them. We could look into that and see how we could slow down traffic, because I know the motorized scooters and bikes are super fast.
Yeah.
Kids get hurt.
Lake Bluff has looked into it. We don't have any jurisdiction at all on
It's
any of the
never,
bike paths.
it's been going on for
But,
25 years.
you know, one community's not gonna change it. It's gonna take something probably statewide where they pass legislation saying this. And I think that even in the Lake Forest one, which runs into Lake Bluff, I think they have some rules, but then you have to enforce
do.
you know,
Yeah, there's nobody
so.
to enforce the rules, right?
Well,
They're starting to
unfortunately,
enforce
you're
them.
right.
Forest is starting to enforce them.
The ones downtown where people are on the sidewalks downtown?
Yeah, the police officers, actually, I think Ben is in charge, my husband Ben is in charge of like starting that whole cycling,
Yeah,
ticketing
a lot of
process
complaints,
because there's been so many complaints.
Okay.
So I know that they are, and Lake Bluff has cracked down a lot, on my son as well. Yeah. So, which is great, I appreciate it.
Yeah, Trustee Catherine, I think, we have discussed, the fact that in a future plan, capital improvement plan for Shields Township, we are planning on trying to extend that bicycle path going north.
Okay.
Right there by Target, obviously it's gonna go right by those apartments, it's gonna go right by what we were just talking about, the Fontana's home, right there where those speed bumps went, and so forth. And I think that that is something that we would have to think about, because that would very much be in our jurisdiction, and we would be able to maybe figure out some things, so I think it's a great point you're making, and I will definitely take it to the board meeting next time.
When you say expanding the bike path lane north,
It's not here yet, well, I take it back, it's mulch in some places, it's not in any existence at all.
so that would be, like, there's what, a walking path between houses?
Exactly.
So that would be a, like,
It's, that's basically a deeded area that could go all the way to the railroad tracks, the EJ&E railroad tracks. And then we could take up the other side and go on over to the sanctuary. We'd have to get under the railroad tracks doesn't want any kind of crossing. So the vision is that we start one, go to the next, and go from there. If we can get a grant, or if we can do something else, maybe we can access that, but that would allow a lot of the young people, and just the community in general, to be able to access the bike path much more easily with really little or no traffic until you get to the light that, Kamala just brought up, that we're concerned about so much.
The first part would be probably from the sanctuary up to the tracks, because then they can head west on Foster, or on Blodgett even, and avoid the narrow sidewalks, because there are sidewalks that were put in years ago, which it's amazing anybody allowed it. That's the state that allowed that. But until you get to about McDonald's, there's actually sidewalks away from the Waukegan Road, so it would eliminate a lot of the traffic if people were coming out of the sanctuary going on Waukegan Road.
we should be very careful with signs, cause I can see, like, I cross those tracks at that spot all the time, rather than walk around, and I know other people do too. You can see the foot traffic there, right? So if we're gonna do that, just from a legal liability, we should mark, do not cross over, blah, 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 cause you're gonna have a kid cross over, trip on, be stupid like my kid did and fall over his own scooter and break an arm.
Right. Well, it'll be many years out probably before we even have the funds to even put a wood chip down. So it's not gonna happen anytime soon. But it's been in the works for over 10 years. I think the plans are 10 or 15 years old.
20, yeah, they were like
So,
20 years old.
And again, it would be
It's a nice
dependent,
thought.
it would be dependent on grants, because we don't have the money to fund it.
Okay, Mr. Administrator, anything to report?
I'm gonna report for the assessor, if that's okay. Today was the assessments were published, so everybody has a month, and it's listed the exact date on when you need to file an appeal. Our assessor here instituted a program a couple years ago, in addition to help residents. So if residents feel like they have questions on their values, they can call us, we can guide them through a process, and we can do a review prior to the appeal. And at that point, they create a grid of what they think their property value is, and our values person will also create one, and we'll either say, no, we think the values are correct, or, yeah, maybe you are a little bit high, would you settle on this figure? Then they have a chance to say yes or no, and it may not be the figure they want, but it may be less than what we have, and they can say yes or no in an email. Or they can say, no, we don't like your valuation, period. They've already now, with our help, created a grid, which they can use then to file to the Board of Review. So they're 90% of the way there. All they have to do is electronically file their appeal based on the help they get if they call our office and ask for help. And last year we had about 100 reviews, and to my knowledge, just looking, and I didn't compare everyone. We only had a couple that went to the board of review after they did our review. A lot of people weren't still happy with their value, but they came out understanding why. So it's a good process. Everybody says their taxes are too high, well, they are, but we have nothing to do with the taxes, that's the levying bodies. And when you ask people what the value of their house is, when it's time to be taxed, it's $200,000 less than if you asked them, what were you gonna have the realtor sell it for? And at that point, looking at the comparables, they'll realize that they are probably comparable, or maybe they're not. I mean, it's not that we have adjusted downwards, based on their review and our review.
Thank you. All right, next thing is approval of bills. We have 3 sets of bills for the board's consideration. So payroll and bills for the town fund, the amount of $13,340.46. Payroll and bills for general assistance in the month, which was none. Payroll and bills for the road and bridge in the amount of $4,937.75. Is there a motion to approve payment of the payroll and bills to for the town fund or general assistant and road bridge? Second, okay. Motion's made by trustee Sevilla and trustee Graber. Any discussion?
Maybe the number is wrong.
Yeah, was that for
Did
town or?
Did I say,
You said you have 13, so I think the assessor's bills would be paid, which you probably have a problem.
I didn't hear the
It
number.
was 17, I don't know why, I don't know where you saw
That's
it.
okay.
I
Yes,
don't know what,
So
sorry.
who made the motion?
I did.
You made the motion?
She's
Yes,
reading
first one.
the listing instead of the, one on the front
On the
page.
front, yeah, go to the
The
front.
listing's only for the town, it's not for the town and assessor, but those
The
are both
assessor
in
comes
the
out of the town
fund.
fund.
Yeah,
Right.
they're both in the town fund.
So what's the first page say there? Let's read off.
Okay, so it sounds to me the town fund expenses are 17,706.98, is that?
Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
so then we would need to vote on that.
No, we're gonna
first.
combine them all. You just tell her the roads. It's,
So we
Okay.
just need a friendly amendment by the person who made the motion, which is trustee Sevilla, and who seconded the motion.
Graber,
Graber.
yes,
So if you both consent to that friendly amendment, you can just call a vote on.
and I must have numbers.
So you
Yeah,
said
right.
13, right?
Yeah, instead of,
Right,
yeah.
so I move to amend the amount to $17,706.90.
So we don't need a separate motion. Typically we would, but the rules allow for a friendly amendment. So if you just both consent, we could go, we could avoid the rigmarole.
Okay, well then, yeah,
of doing
sorry about that.
Multiple motions.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion? Right. Well, Madam Clerk is gone, but please call roll.
Yes, trustee Swarthout?
Aye.
Trustee Prager?
Aye.
Supervisor Urso?
Aye.
Trustee Sabella?
Aye.
Trustee Parnell?
Alright, motion carries, the payment of bills is approved as presented. Okay, next one is old business. Is there any old business that any members of this board wish to bring forward?
You didn't do the road fund, so you did the town fund.
Yes,
but not-
they did all in one motion.
But she said 17,000.
Yep, so that was the correct number, so the first numbers the
No, it's,
supervisor read.
the correct number for all of them
So
is
you
22,644.73.
Okay, any old business? Alright, hearing none, I will close this portion of the meeting. Okay, approval of the regular meeting minutes of August 21st, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, the motion is made by trustee Swarthout. Okay, and then, trustee Michelle, and, okay, any discussion? Okay, can we get roll call?
Yeah, trustee Swarthout? Trustee Prager?
Aye.
Supervisor Urso?
Aye.
Trustee Sabella?
Aye.
Trustee Parnell?
Okay, the motion carries and the regular meeting minutes for August 21st, 25 are approved as presented. Okay, the next one is approval of executive meeting minutes for August 21st, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, motion is presented by trustee Sevilla and trustee
could get
I
that.
gave-
No, it's clever.
I gave him one.
He's got it in his file.
I'm just looking at it.
Okay,
No, I'm
no,
just
no problem.
making sure, you want a second to look over because they went out today to.
Thank you so much. No, I greatly appreciate that, thank you. Never got home. Thank you.
Did we do roll call already?
No.
Discussion.
I'm just going to, so no discussion, okay. So Deputy Clerk, you call roll.
Trustee Sortha. Trustee Prager. Supervisor Urso.
Aye.
Trustee Sabella.
Aye.
Trustee Brunel.
Okay, the motion carries and the executive meeting minutes for August 21st, 2025 are approved as presented. Okay, now the approval of fiscal year of 2025 audit. Is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 township audit as presented?
I second.
Okay, you second, thank you. Motion made by trustee Swarthout and trustee Prager. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Swartha. Trustee Prager. Supervisor Urso.
Aye.
Trustee Sabella.
Aye.
Trustee Brunel.
Okay, the motion carries and the fiscal year 2025 audit is approved as presented. Staff is directed to file the report with the Comptroller's Office and the County Clerk as required by law. Executive session, is there any reason to adjourn to executive session? Okay.
No, but I do wanna bring up something perhaps under new business that's not on the agenda, and that is that for several meetings now, here and there, we've gotten requests to have dialogue with the comments that have been made, and I feel like the comments that are just going,
I wanted to address that anyone could call during our, normal, hours. We're always there, someone to talk to, and we can answer anyone's questions.
well, and I thank you for that, I think that's awesome, and I think the employees as well of the town and all the representatives. Needless to say, though, there are still comments that are made in this forum, and they come at us, and then there's never any opportunity for discussion. For instance, last meeting, we had this great, participant who spoke about the trees and, the benefit of the trees, and just had a wealth of information, and it would be nice to say, okay, well, what do you think we could do as a community to improve this, but we don't have any ability or item on the agenda, so what I'm really seeking is, and not that I wanna keep everybody here all night long, but perhaps there's an opportunity to push back reports to 6 and have a new agenda item 5 for, like, an opportunity for dialogue.
So I can say, any two trustees can request an item be placed on the agenda, so at any time you can request an agenda item be placed on the agenda. So if there's an item that's brought up for public comment, you can request that be put on the agenda specifically, right, and talk about how you would like to address it. I think the idea is that public comment isn't intended to be for discourse, and if you watch, for example, like school board meetings, you'll understand why. And, the idea is, like, as the supervisor said, that's that's why there's office hours, and for people to come in. This is an opportunity for the people to bring issues to the board, right? And if they wanna come back, if you wanna place something on the agenda, you and another trustee absolutely have an absolute right to do that on the statute. At any meeting, 2 days in advance is, I think, is what's required.
So take, for example, that we have a situation that somebody just brought up this evening, and they just said that they would like to have a little more transparency or an opportunity to interact with the board, right after a meeting. Your suggestion is, Counselor, that what we do is if we decide to do something like that, that we bring that into the agenda next meeting somehow, and bring that up in some way that would be a proper form and that, in that performance of order.
Right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think I could hear. So what some boards do is they do, breakfast with the board, coffee with the board, where there's community events where you engage with the board. Right, I think this is the intent of a meeting is this is a business meeting, and the business needs to be taken care of. And that's why there's a limit on public comment, right? But so I think, that's something that's important to consider. I think that's appropriate, and that's just to get out and kind of hear people. But what I'm saying is exactly right. If there's an item that's brought up during public comment, and there's some sort of plan to address it, or some action item, right, where the board would act, vote yes, no, this is what we're doing, then that could be placed on the next agenda. And it would be, you and another trustee, that's what would require the supervisor to put it on
So executives hearing none, I will close the portion of the meeting. Okay, is there any other business that any member of the board wishes to bring forward? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, for a second, thank you. Motion is made. Trustee Michelle, trustee Trent. Alright, all in favor say aye. Okay, any opposed, any abstentions? The ayes have it, and we adjourn this meeting at